Hello and welcome to Starting Points, where one thing leads to another. Last time we were finished by looking at the tree kangaroo. And the tree kangaroo was found, 2 species in Australia, but 8 species up here in New Guinea. And that's where that adventure was taking place. Now, somebody who had got an idea in their head about kangaroos and how they look and move and everything, and then heard someone mention tree kangaroo, that person might think, oh, that's a whopper. In other words, fact or fiction can sometimes be based on what we understand, and if something doesn't quite fit in that context, it's hard to comprehend. So that's a little bit more of the theme for this time as well, as I have 3 creatures who live in Australia I want to share with you. Now, the first one was discovered, sighted first by the Dutch. They 2 ships were exploring around the coast of Australia, and they got down to the southwest part here, and in a river they saw swimming a creature that no one had seen before. That is, no one had seen this creature in the color it was. This creature was a swan, but it was not a white swan, as all Europeans were accustomed to, but it was a black swan. What a beautiful creature it was. And its cygnets all are sort of grayish white color down when they're born, but when they start to grow their feathers in, they're black. So we've got one example. Now, this example, someone has revived and sort of made it as a phrase that covers other examples like it. They say, oh, that's a black swan, referring to the fact that it exists, but it's sort of out of your points of reference, and so it's dealing with something unusual when one encounters that. So the black swan, the next creature I want to show you, it's in this book, Strange Animals, strange, unusual, amazing, certainly amazing, is this one. Now, the year that they saw the black swans was 1697. Now, 101 years go by before anybody discovers this animal. This animal's discovered on the eastern side of Australia, and it's the platypus. And if somebody would have described this to somebody back, say, in England, and said, well, this animal's got a beak sort of like a duck, but it's got fur, and a tail that looks like a beaver's, and its paws are webbed, and they have nails on them, much like an otter. Person might have wondered if that was a black swan, because I can't imagine. You're pulling my leg. But no, but more is to come. It lays an egg. Holy moly. Well, creatures that lay an egg are called monotreme monotreme. And there's another one in this book. And it's related to the platypus, but it doesn't look at all like the platypus. This monotreme is called an echidna. And it's a smallish creature that feeds on ants. Has a long sticky tongue that it can sort of shoot out and catch an ant. When it's in danger, if it senses danger, everything's gotten quiet, they'll maybe dig a hole wondering what's approaching. And because it's spiny, it probably is relatively safe in that hole. But if it's caught unawares by something and doesn't have time to dig a hole, it can just roll itself up into a prickly ball. So there's 3 examples: the black swan, the platypus, and the echidna. Now, I want to share with you some stories. The stories take place in Australia, and they're picture books. And in the next video, I want to share with you some fiction that is more for older readers. But this book is by Jeannie Baker, and it's called Window. And every 2-page spread has got illustration made from a photograph of a collage that she created. It's hard for me to fathom how many hours she spent designing, thinking, planning, making those collages. And it's a really neat story. And I found some other books by her. The Hidden Forest. Well, that forest caught my eye. And the Hidden Forest is a different use of the word forest than I would normally think of. It's a kelp forest. And this again is a lovely story and lovely illustrations. Now, I could have said beautiful. I overworked that word beautiful, I guess. I probably might overwork the word lovely. Now, what am I going to say about these illustrations for the Where the Forest Meets the Sea, Jeannie Baker? And striking. These are striking photos, illustrations for a ecologically focused story. All 3 of those talk about the environment. Now, in that Australian environment, we've discovered there are many kinds of eucalyptus trees. They produce something called a gum nut. And this is a gum nut. It's a quite recognizable one. It has this X shape on the sort of flat bottom, and the top part has got 4 ridges, so it reminds me of sort of a medieval helmet. Well, a gum nut figures into the story by Christabel Mattingly of Brave with Ben. It's illustrated by Elizabeth Honey, and her illustrations are, now let's see if I can think of a word for those. Those illustrations are very realistic, very realistic. These illustrations are by Pamela Lofts, and they've got a touch of humor to them. Wombat Stew. This is a wombat. It's a fairly harmless creature, and it gets caught by a dingo. And other creatures that we've met, like the platypus, the echidna, the emu we didn't talk about, but the emu does some interesting things in terms of rearing its chicks after they're born. I leave that to you to maybe look up. Wombat Stew is by Marcia Vaughn. Well, thanks for joining me. Until next time, bye for now.